And welcome to Chet Chats. We are a little bit early than usual. However, please feel free to tune in when you do get a chance. It is already about like 80 degrees here in LA, so I hope you are also experiencing some sort of sunshine on this lovely June morning. As always, we have some special shout outs and thank yous to give, so I'm going to pass it on over.
Good morning, Sean.
Good morning.
Yes, good to see you.
You too.
Yes, before we get started again, we'd like to thank our sponsorship as well as the other numerous people that we don't know that support us. Changing Lives at Home, Green Veteran Donation Center, HefeHair.com, JAlexJewels.com, KnotedTogether.com, LACruiser.com, PremierTagAndTitle.com, and last but not least, Synergy.com. Thank you again for your continuous support throughout this endeavor. Thank you. What's going on, Sean? Oh, before we get started, I'd like to send an early shout out to Father's Day because we won't be on the air. And to all those fathers that are being a father and a dad and a responsible parent, please continue that journey. And those who aren't yet, it's never too late to start being. So what's up, Sean?
Not much, Dad.
Yeah.
As always, I have picked a big topic for us to discuss in a short amount of time.
Right.
So for those who do not know, there was a new 4-part movie that was released on Netflix titled When They See Us.
Okay.
Just a little bit of a background about it. It covered the story of 4 black children, male children, who were wrongfully accused and prosecuted for a crime that they did not commit by a white prosecutor. Mm-hmm. So in light of that, I do encourage you to go watch it. It is a lot to handle at one time. So completely understandable if it takes you some time to watch the full 4 parts of it. However, I do believe that is extremely important and speaks a lot about our justice system that we do have in the United States. So
Can I comment on that before you get into your question? Yes, I was fortunate enough to be able to see it and was actually at the Q&A of the screen. So it's very deep. I suggest anyone that hasn't watched it, no matter what's your ethnicity, please watch it so you can get a better understanding on a lot of things that are still continuously happening in America today, not even back in '89 when this actual alleged crime was committed. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, I'm sorry.
It's okay. So
what's going on?
In light of that and watching it, my question, Dad, for you is more so tailored to you today as far as all the questions go.
Okay. Hopefully I can be able to cover some fun.
My first question really is, what is it like being a black man in America? Like, what does that mean to you?
To me, a lot of thoughts going through my mind as you just said that. You know, again, I'm trying because we don't know. I don't know what you're going to talk about in the air, and it's overwhelming right now, to be honest with you, because that's a question that is asked, but not often asked to me. And being a man of color in America, black man of color, whatever, and that's a whole nother bit, because how do you get black as a color? So we won't go into that. However, we will go into it's not easy. In my opinion, it's not easy because we're sort of as enemy number one. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you remember this group called Public Enemy, and Public Enemy had a song out, and they used to consider the black man as, considered as an enemy. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why we consider that way. I guess numerous reasons, people being afraid, people need to blame their fears on something. So I guess we got chosen as the fear factor as it relates to that. I know it can be rough. I mean, you hear countless amount of people dying, Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, the list go on. I can't even name the number of people that wasn't even doing anything quote unquote wrong and lost their life behind their complexity of their skin tone only. So it's very dangerous, and this is thank you for picking this topic. It's very emotional for me, honestly. And anybody that's chiming in and can see us, because we can't see everybody like we said, please feel free to give your comments and your opinions as well as your facts. But it's very hard being in America. you know, and it's so crazy that you said that because I just read a post from a good friend. I'm gonna just say her first name, Shannon. She wrote, well, I read her post. I don't know if she actually wrote it, but it said, when are black men going to start looking at other black men like, nah, I can't kill him. That's my brother, right? Now, if you had to put that quote on, so now imagine if your own ethnicity is willing to kill you because of your skin complexion. What do you think the rest of the ethnicities are going to do about that? You know, in my opinion. So it's very disheartening to see that we are sorted out. Like, we're a rare commodity, but people of color don't understand that. We're very intellectual people, but a lot of people don't get to see that because a lot of times the media force feeds an image that's not even close to the majority of the people. Do some people partake in certain actions and whatnot? Absolutely. But every black man in America does not partake in certain actions, especially in criminality. However, he get treated as such no matter where he go for the most part. And I'm not saying every black person experienced this, but I personally experienced racism, prejudices against me growing up as a young man in America. So, yeah. Hey, Cheryl, thank you for joining in. So, I mean, yes, I thank you for this topic. And that movie is critical because that happens so often to disenfranchise people that aren't aware of the systems that's been in place. And if you looked at it, even though the movie was a reenactment, the lady, Miss Ava, because she was at the actual premiere with us, she sat down and told us they went word for word through the transcripts, the interviews, and whatnot. So it depicts an accurate picture of what they were doing to these particular group of people to get a conviction. And anybody that does know the judicial system, and prosecutors have the most power in the system overall, especially on a federal level. I can't speak on the state level. I can speak on a federal level. The prosecutors hold the power. So whatever they deem is to be able to prosecute, they will do such. Meaning, when people don't understand this, and oftentimes justice is not being sorted, it's about conviction, because a lot of people then use these convictions, meaning the prosecution and the judges and so forth and on, to propel their career. So they're not really into justice, because in that particular situation, on that particular movie, if they were truly in for justice, they would have then sought other avenues to see if anybody else could particularly fit the crime. However, they didn't. They set up a system that they got it, and they made it work. So people don't understand when they say they can indict a ham sandwich, that's true a statement. They can get an indictment on anything because you're going to skew the facts to fit the picture. And if you're skewing facts to fit the picture, that's an unjust right there. So that movie was really, I had to stop. I mean, you know, because it was really, and I mean, it really touched a lot of chords again within my system, you know, that go through, because so many black young men do not know systems. And honestly, and again, they not born to learn the criminal system.
Right.
You know, I mean, I don't think people just wake up and say, hey, he's black, he's going to be a criminal. But unfortunately, the statistics against us, especially growing up in a single family household without both male and female being involved, is disheartening as well. You know, 7 out of 10, 3 out of 10. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number. Yeah, so I don't want to quote a number that I don't know. However, it's been geared that 9 times out of 10, one of a single family household will see some type of legal system going against them. You didn't know that?
I did not.
Yeah, that's facts. But I don't have the numbers in front of me because I didn't know what subject matter you was going to cover today. So forgive me. People, anybody that's chiming in, Lily, thank you. Harry, thank you. And everybody else to continue. So now what happened from the very beginning, by these people being less educated in the judicial system, they got railroaded all the way through, in particular, except for the one lady and her son, where she knew just basically if a minor is not to be questioned by an adult, then she knew that part. However, she didn't understand the bigger scheme of what they were planning on trying to do to these particular group of men. Instead of them finding justice, they wanted a conviction. And anytime you want a conviction, you're going to screw justice a lot of times, in my opinion. So how did the film make you feel?
Well, I've only seen half of it, so I've only seen part 1 and 2.
Okay.
It's a lot. I think it goes back to what you're saying. It's a lot of feelings that get pulled from within when watching that film. And I just, like, when I first saw it, I talked to you a little bit about it and how I asked, my initial question was, is it scary being a black male in America?
Yes.
That was my initial question that I had after watching.
And what did I tell you?
Yeah, like
it's
it didn't
extreme.
stutter. It was just, yes.
Because we are hunted by all ethnicities, even our own.
Which I don't understand.
Right, that's a bigger problem, bigger situation that can be resolved. But we're even hunted by our own on a regular basis. So that's why I said that quote by Shannon that I post. When will we take responsibility for us? Because again, are there some crooked police out there? Absolutely. Are there some crooked, prosecutors? Absolutely. And they don't get reprimanded the way they should be because they just go to another district and keep moving on. However, what about us?
Right.
What about us? Yes, is it fearful when a police officer get behind me while driving? Absolutely, because I have no idea what's going on in their mind. And I'm not even doing any crime. But the anxiety behind that sometimes is frightening because I get pulled over. They even show various videos when they get pulled over. The first thing is the gun is being drawn. It's not license and registration how it should be. It's pulling the gun and saying don't move oftentimes. So yes, it can be very frightening at times. And I believe I'm a strong young man. However, I can't beat out bullets. This is not being jokeful right now, but I can't. I can't. And most officers have at least a 9mm, which carries at least 9 rounds of ammunition. So again, that's a lot of firepower when you're just pulling over a person that done nothing and has done nothing wrong. It's not like a worn out on them or anything of that sort. So it's very frightening at times being in America.
And my second part of that question, the initial question that I had after watching it is, what is it like having like an offspring who is also a male and who is also black? Granted, like Chet is not
fair skinned.
He is, but he's still mixed and he does not look white.
Right.
So what is that like raising or having a son who is also could potentially face
something detrimental
similar,
for this being a man of color in America.
Correct.
It's very frightful at times because I don't know how he may respond. And oftentimes I taught y'all to respond with respect for yourself and respect for others. And that respect sometimes is not conveyed clearly to officers because in their mind, not all have this superior power, we over you. See, and that's a problem in my opinion as it relates to just what we're talking about. So I'm very frightful at times, nervous at times because when he go out, it might be his last time going out. And that might sound scary because some people don't even experience those things, but I do. I keep it in constant prayer. I keep not only Chet in prayer, any person of color in prayer, and people in prayer, period.
Yeah.
However, until we change our mindset, see how it all go back to our mindset, until we take full responsibility and accountability to us, I don't think things going to change right away. So by things not changing right away, I believe officers need to have courses. I believe officers need to have understanding that they are to serve the system, not the cold blue. Right? The system that was allegedly set up to better the environment for everybody. That's just my opinion. I think as parents, friends, and so forth, we need to continue to educate our young on this system. Again, I'm not suggesting that you're raising a child to be a criminal person. However, what I am suggesting that they do know the system, so they do know that at least their basic rights before and they get embarked on and not knowing what to say or do, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how I taught y'all young. I was taught young. If a police officer grab you and start to question you about something you had no idea about, what do?
Ask for a lawyer.
No matter how old,
Okay.
because that's a right that they supposed to obey.
Mm-hmm.
Though the they is the system of the officers. That's the they.
However, in that case, in a lot of shows and movies where they read you your rights, they don't actually do that in real life.
No, they don't.
Right. So
That's not true.
It's up to you essentially to know what your rights are.
Exactly.
Should you be in that type of situation?
And you should know your rights. And that's why I said, people, I know there's so many things going on in the world today, and it's so hectic, your schedule hectic, life is hectic, but we need to educate our children. We need to educate them at a young age of the system that's at hand. Not to scare them, but to enlighten.
Yeah.
Not to scare them, because all officers aren't bad.
They're not.
All prosecutors aren't bad. However, the ones that are the rotten apples of the bunch, it makes it look bad on all. So then we get us against them type of mentality. And unfortunately, that's not a good resolve, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So again, people, as I state to you, any women and men that have children, any child, and in particular, and then children of color, you have to start teaching them at a young age. I know it's hard because they're supposed to be learning about math. The basic, essential, brush your teeth, make your bed up, the basic things at such a young age. However, we're living in a society that we beyond basic as it relates to the criminal system. Yeah. And we need to wake up. And those gentlemen that did wrongfully, because you got to understand, they're not the only wrongfully indicted people, mm-hmm. especially of color. I read a book called 12, and out of those 12, no particular person done the crime, but they wind up doing like 120 years between them. Out of 12 people, yes. And they will give you that time. And anybody that know or familiar with the judicial system, they have no problem giving people long, lengthy prison sentences. And that's a whole nother matter that we can cover another time. Yeah. But we're focusing on being black in America, and I'm glad you decided to talk about this, because it is a subject that needs to be aired, not just by me or anybody else, and we need to have open dialogue about it. What caused these people to wake up that every day, that particular time frame? And I'm staying with the movie. Mm-hmm. To wake up and say, hey, this is right what we're doing. Instead of them following the correct evidence, we're going to manufacture evidence to convict these young men.
Yeah.
And do you know the cycle that they went through? Do you know how many families was affected from that? Because your poor choice of following the actual evidence. Mm-hmm. They made poor choices. And those poor choices wound up affecting not only 5 families, a nation.
Yeah.
Because it continued to go. Trayvon Martin, and again, there's other men besides Trayvon Martin, numerous people that don't get the airtime. I send out my sincere condolences to you and your family and all the families that's been affected by it. Because oftentimes families don't get the necessary, airtime, and it continue to go. But we must start being accountable, people. And not that y'all are not accountable, but more accountability is needed. And we must start holding out the people that we elect in office to really be accountable. We elect them because they run on these platforms to say, hey, we're about this, we're about that. But as soon as they get in the office, that whole mentality changed for the most part. And if it's bigger than them, they need to let us know that it's bigger than them so we can get them the right tools to operate in these systems that have been in place over hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. So we can then change the narrative, because this narrative that we're going on right now is not a particular part of a narrative that I want to be a part of. Was I part of the problem? Perhaps, absolutely. But now I'm trying to be part of the solution. And with that being stated, I'm willing to handle my accountability. So people, please, let's wake up. Let's stop blaming and start getting resolved for these issues. Because a man, any man that has to worry about losing his life not by natural causes, that's wrong. That is really wrong in my opinion. That is truly wrong. That a man cannot wake up, as that old movie go, Pursuit of Happiness. When even the forefathers, when they wrote this Constitution, even though it was slavery going on, I think they want, I mean, not then they wanted everybody that had Pursuit of Happiness, but in 2019, we all allowed it to have a pursuit of happiness. And with that being stated, please, people, share. Let's share. Let's talk. Excuse me, I'm getting emotional. Could you take over a little bit, Shy?
Yes.
Please.
I will say.
Hey, Stacy. Thanks for joining.
Also, that educating, we talk about this a lot too, but like educating yourself on a variety of different things is extremely important, and that reach one, teach one is extremely important as well, I believe, especially in situations such as this. I'd also like to say that even though we are talking about being a black man specifically, like in America, it's not to say that all white people are bad people, and like you're saying, not all prosecutors are bad people, and etc. It's just understanding and knowing at the end of the day that we are technically all equal. However, it's a matter of how we're going about reminding people that we are all equal. So this whole video that we're doing, it's not to say that all white people are bad or all prosecutors are bad or all policemen are bad, because they're not. It's just a matter of understanding, I guess, different perspective, and understanding that at the end of the day, we are all still people regardless of the skin tone that we have.
And we need to change the current narrative.
Yeah.
It's important. I mean, our mindsets have to change the current narrative. And I'm glad you pointed that all out, because it's not an all. That would be an overgeneralization of people.
Yeah, it's not an all people of anything.
Of anything. However, we need to change the narrative, because it saddens me that I have to be fearful of my son's existence, not based on natural causes, but just based on the ignorance of somebody misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Because of however they were brought up. And that saddens me, because, you know, you say you protect and serve. So if you're protecting and serving, it should be about the people first. Don't get me wrong. They do have dangerous jobs. It's dangerous people out in the world. I agree with that.
But there needs to be more, personally, I believe there needs to be more training on how to respond to certain situations.
Absolutely.
And when you put on that uniform and you put on that badge, you're essentially, in my opinion, you are stripping your own personal opinions and beliefs about things, and you're serving, like you're saying, you're serving the people who essentially look to you to save their lives in a certain situation. So as like being a multiracial female, it's like I should not have fear that the police officers are going to take my life or take someone's life that I love who is not white, but instead, if they are called to the scene, that they are going to do what they are supposed to do and protect all that are around. So I just feel like there's a lot more that needs to be done in that system, as far as them understanding what it is that they are actually doing when they put on that uniform and when they put on the belt that carries the gun and the taser, etc.
As well as the prosecution officer as well.
Yes.
And real quick before we had to wind down, I was in a particular prison, and what they did, they had inside-outside program, it was called, where people that were potential new lawyers and prosecution actually had to come stay in the prison with us. Not for the all day, but to see how it operates. Because oftentimes prosecutors never visit prisons, nor judges or anything, and they don't understand how it affects on both ends. So it was called Inside Outside program, an excellent program. I hope it's still going on. So it was giving up and coming lawyers and prosecutors and defense attorneys, you know, the both sides of actually being incarcerated, because normally after the case over, they go on to their next case.
Right.
So they don't understand the effects that it had on the person that they incarcerated as it relates. And I think the program is doing extremely well. So I think we need to, like you say, get more awareness. People of their children, we definitely need to have our children aware of what's going on. I know you want to shelter them from harm at all costs, and I commend you, both parents, you know, male, female, but on the same token, we must enlighten them at all costs. We must truly continue to enlighten them at all costs. Any closing remarks?
I mean, this topic is a really big topic.
Yeah.
Per
I think we should do a
usual,
part 2.
I agree. So, but please, as always, leave your comments and opinions below in the comment section after we do go off the air. Really quickly before we do wrap up, if you're not aware of what is going on right now in Sudan, please educate yourself as well. What's going on there? There's a huge massacre right now of their people. So please uplift them in prayers as well as your fellow community and those who are not in your community, and have an amazing and a blessed Wednesday.
Peace.